point of view, Canada looks entirely conservative blue. But that's because the rural ridings are so geographically large.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a bit deceiving when just looking at it from a map point of view, because it looks like, wow, Canada's entirely conservative. Well, land doesn't vote, people do.
Right.
And so when you drill down into the urban areas, the ridings are geographically tiny, but they're very dense in population. So, and that's where the Conservatives tend to fail, in the urban centers. So in the 416 of Toronto, the 905, they get decimated. And in the Vancouver Lower Mainland area, they get hurt. Even in Alberta, in urban centers like Edmonton especially, but to a lesser extent Calgary,
mm-hmm.
It's competitive. I'll say that. They're not hurting, but it's competitive. And then, I don't need to tell you, Quebec, French-speaking Canada is not a fan of a Western-based party.
Right.
So there's that. And surprisingly, the Maritimes, the East Coast, although they have voted Liberal and Conservative in the past, they're not against it.
Mm-hmm.
But again, if you just position yourself as kind of like benign conservative,
mm-hmm.
you'll be palatable to a lot wider demographic. But if you position yourself as a Trump-style conservative,
mm-hmm.
Your base will love you, but you're going to have a really tough time expanding beyond your base. So, and that's who they elected. That is the nature of the leader, the current leader of the Conservative Party. Unapologetically so. So he does stick to his guns. He's not like, I should have done that. No, that's who he is, and he's proud to be that way.
Yeah, but there was something in the news today. Sorry for interrupting, but there was something in the news today about how the fishermen on the East Coast, they're very upset with the government in regards to their controlling of how much crab and how many fish they're supposed to be taking in, even though there seems to be an abundance of that. Are you sure they're going to all vote or still vote for the Liberal government?
Yeah, I don't. That's a good question. You're getting into the weeds, and I'll be honest with you. In terms of the specific drilled down issues of East Coast voters. Do I have my finger on the pulse of that? No, I don't. I honestly don't. So I'm not suggesting that the very specific issue that you just raised, which I'm sure is life and death, that's the lifeblood of much of the East Coast, the cod industry,
mm-hmm.
The shellfish industry, all that good stuff. Yeah, that's a big deal. I don't even really, if I'm being really honest with you, and not to trumpet my ignorance, in terms of do you have an understanding of what the current quotas are? How much they're even allowed to fish? I genuinely don't. It's
about 1/3 to 1/4 of what it was even last year.
Okay. Is there a reason for that? Are the stocks depleted or something? Or
that's what the Environment Canada says, that the stocks are depleted, but what the fishermen see with their own eyes is completely opposite, and they've been voicing their concerns, and so there's a sort of sentiment on the East Coast that, hey, this whole green protect your, I don't know, I guess crab or something has gone too far. We can't make a living, selling salt water.
Sure. Yeah, I hear you. Okay. Yes.
But then you go back to what you were saying earlier about how, just because you got a riding that's going to vote partially or even dramatically blue, it's not going to make much of a difference because it's just one riding compared to the whole country.
And you would ask yourself, I don't know, will that fish quota issue win the day? And no. I don't even know what is the Conservative leader saying about fisheries? Fuck my ignorance. I don't even know who's the current Minister of Fisheries for Canada. I have no fucking idea who that is.
Right.
There is one, but I don't know who it is.
Right.
But if I did, I'll look it up as soon as we're done talking,
mm-hmm.
Because that'll give an indication of the nature of that fellow. Sort of gives an informed thought on which way the wind is blowing, type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
imagine it's someone from the East Coast who knows the industry, who knows the people, that sort of thing. That's typically who politicians tend to put in. They pick someone whose riding is in the East Coast, someone close to home kind of thing.
That's a big presumption.
Yeah,
I mean, how many times have you got somebody?
Well, I suppose so, yeah.
Yeah, how many times have you got somebody?
But I don't.
Somebody within the cabinet who doesn't know a clue about, a fish or a car.
You're just asking for trouble if you do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, like if you pick someone from Quebec to run the fisheries department, that's why would you do that? Mm-hmm. You're antagonizing people. Don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
But these are good issues.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I would weigh it against the very real issue of stocks, fish stocks, and fishing quotas.
Mm-hmm.
Weighed against the sovereignty issue
mm-hmm.
that sort of Trump put forward.
Mm-hmm.
What's the predominant issue upon which even these fishermen will have in their head when they go into the voting booth in 5 weeks? I'd be curious to know what that is.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you what. You won't on election night.
Mm-hmm.
You know how it goes. The polls tend to come in from east to west, so you will not have to wait long to understand which way the wind is blowing. The East Coast,
good point.
Really does
is the East Coast a bellwether to the country or not?
Say it again.
Is the East Coast a bellwether to the country or not?
Yes, exactly. Correct. That's
okay.
Okay. I love how you. Yes,
okay.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what I was fumbling around with my poor language,
mm-hmm.
trying to say. That's exactly what it is. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So, are there some outliers built into there?
Sure.
Yeah, there are.
Sure, there always is.
Can you give me an example? Sure. That Richie Rich area in New Brunswick, Rothsay, always conservative.
Mm-hmm.
If Rothsay goes liberal, oh, fuck. Okay, well, the conservatives are going to have a bad day.
Yeah.
But I don't expect that to occur.
Right.
I'm sure they'll still vote conservative. But to your bellwether point, that's what you remember that part of. I dated a girl from there, so I know what the houses and the people. They're all doctors and lawyers and professionals.
Right.
Who live in that part of
the world. Yeah.
Is Rothsay there's even a private school like a stay there, Rothsay Netherwood, I think, or something like that. Anyways, is that attached to Moncton or St. John? I forget. Is it? It's
just north of St. John.
North. Say it again.
North of St. John.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So, generally, Rothsay almost always votes conservative. So, yes, the East Coast is a bellwether for the rest of the country.
Mm-hmm.
So, if it's split, if it's like, ooh, half went conservative, half went liberal, okay, then it's going to be a bum fight. It's going to be it's unlikely that any one party will win a majority then. So we'll see. But yes, the East Coast tends to be a bellwether for the rest of the country. So you will not have to wait long. So yeah, it'll be fun. I mean, hey, the news agencies are like giddy, like schoolgirls, because this is their big moment to shine. So it's kind of funny listening to them.
Interesting.
So yeah.
Well, I appreciate it.
You should vote, and you should convince Francois to vote. By the way.
Yeah, I will for sure.